So we are still reading the Testaments. We are on part 15, Ardua Hall, starring Hannah, or as she's referred to in the book, Agnes. She's worried about Becca because months have gone by and she hasn't heard anything about her friend. Like if she's dead, if she's alive, like nothing. And her Marthas haven't heard anything either, which is weird because, they always have the gossip. Shunammite, however, was just like, oh, she just wants attention, to which Hannah disagrees. And then they're kind of chilly to each other for the rest of the time they're in school. And when spring rolls around, Aunt Gabbana tells Paula that they have, her stepmother Paula, that they have 3 prospects for marriage for Hannah. The first being Commander Judd. Yay! All dead, young wives, 5 handmaids, no babies. The second prospect, younger than Judd and smart, had 1 baby that died before it turned 1, and his wife ended up dying in an asylum. The third prospect is much younger, 25. He's a low-ranking commander, but his family would be so indebted that they would be super nice to Hannah and probably treat her very well because she's above them. Aunt Gabbana tells her to think it over, but we all know who she'll be set up with. I mean, come on. Of course, the most powerful guy, right? So she thinks about each one of the prospects hovering over top of her. And I quote, trying to shove his loathsome appendage into my stone-cold body. Why was I thinking of my body as stone cold, I wondered. Then I saw, it would be stone cold because I would be dead. How freaking sad are these bitches' lives that they often see suicide as the only way out. So she thought about running away, but was like completely ignorant of the lay of the land. Like she didn't know anything about the geography of Gilead because they're not taught that. Why would they need to? Or they need to go anywhere? Why would she need to know any of that as a wife? So her week is dwindling down fast. And of course, Paula and Commander Kyle favored Judd because he's the most powerful, and that would give them more power. So they try to persuade her that that's what she wants. And I quote, it was clear that I would be married to Commander Judd, whether I liked it or not. Paula is telling her, hey, look, he's pretty old, so you'll probably outlive him. Which, obviously, we know is bullshit. Now, Paula's either not paying attention to Judd's former wives, or she really just wants to get rid of Hannah by any means. What do you guys think? Because I think she's a psychotic bitch who doesn't give a shit in any way. She just wants her out of her house. Meanwhile, Hannah is just spending most of her time contemplating different ways to kill herself, thinking that this is her only way out. Her engagement is announced at the end of the week to, you guessed it, Commander Judd. And Commander Judd shows up at her house in full regalia, medals and all, and I quote, the commander advanced, arranged his face into a jowly smile, stuck his mouth onto my forehead like in a chaste kiss. His lips were unpleasantly warm, and they made a sucking sound as they pulled away. I pictured a tiny morsel of my brain being sucked through the skin of my forehead into his mouth. 1,000 such kisses later, and my skull would be emptied of brain. If only it were that simple, Hannah. She said he smelled of alcohol and mint mouthwash. The aunts came later to measure her for her wedding dress, and she chose just any dress at random. Like, she obviously doesn't give a crap in any way about this. And I quote, in addition to the dress, a special nightgown for the wedding night with ribbon bows down the front. So easy to open, like a gift wrap package. Which, I mean, basically she is. She's this property that's being gifted to this old man to use as he sees fit. 2 weeks until the wedding, and I quote, 2 weeks, I thought. I had only 14 scant days of life left to me on this earth. How would I spend them? So she's just done, dude. She doesn't want to do this, and she's just like, I'm gonna kill myself because I'm not gonna marry this guy. So she just keeps thinking of suicide or even murder-suicide, but she knows that she can't really do any of she really doesn't think that she can actually kill herself, but she's just like so desperate to get out of this and seeing suicide as the only way. And she's just hoping someone is gonna rescue her from this horrible fate that's set in front of her, that's like already almost practically written in stone. There's nothing she can do except kill herself. That's how she feels. And then, just when all hope seems lost, 3 days until the wedding, Hannah receives an unexpected visitor. And I quote, Aunt Lydia, the main founder, the gold frame picture at the back of every classroom, the ultimate aunt, come to see me? What had I done? Paula was out, which was a lucky thing. Though, after I came to know Aunt Lydia better, I realized that luck had nothing to do with it. Aunt Lydia first tells her about her friend Becca and tells her how she's doing, and tell her that she's now a supplicant aunt. And I quote, Oh, I said. A light was dawning. A door was opening. Not every girl is suitable for marriage, she continued. For some, it's simply a waste of potential. A little bird has told me that you might agree. So Aunt Lydia tells Hannah that she has to take the first step, and she should talk to Aunt Esty about how she feels about getting married. So Hannah arranges some deception, saying she wanted to talk to Aunt Lorna about her wedding dress to Paula. So she wears Paula down with some bullshit about how she wants to make sure her dress is perfect. So Paula agrees, because she's busy anyway, and Aunt Lorna just happens to be at Shunammite's because Shunammite is also getting married soon. So off she goes to Shunammite's house to talk with Aunt Lorna. Shunammite is actually happy to see her and seems really excited about her upcoming wedding. I mean, she doesn't like her husband, but he's kind of important. So she's definitely envious of who Hannah's going to marry because he has more power. She tells Hannah it's like marrying God. Then Hannah tells Aunt Lorna later that she wants to add some random frill to her dress. It was so insignificant a request, she didn't even remember what she had asked her to add to the dress. And then Hannah leaves. She asked her guardian driver if he would please drive her to her old school so that she could say thank you and goodbye to her former teacher. And I quote, Those aren't my instructions. So she used a little bit of her wiles, and then off they went. And I quote, So this is how women get things done, I thought. I was disgusted with myself. But you'll notice this didn't stop me. And I know that's true for some girls. Like, they'll use their wiles to get whatever they want, whether, they feel good about it or not. That's what you gotta do sometimes, I guess, if you feel like it's your only option. Well, she was lucky because Aunt Esty was actually still at the school, even though it was after hours. She tells Aunt Esty how she feels she has a higher calling and that marriage just wasn't right for her. And Aunt Esty seemed satisfied with her answers and told her she would need to talk to her parents and also Aunt Lydia, of course. Hannah doesn't really like that she has to talk to her parents because she knows that they're not gonna just willingly give her up. Not if she can marry this guy and give them more power. And Aunt Esty asks her if she wants to come with her. And Hannah's like, no, because she's worried that Paula's just going to drug her and keep her home. And Aunt Esty didn't fight this, so she might have believed it to be true. However, she told her she couldn't stay at the school, so they'd have to take her someplace safe. And she tells Hannah all will be well. And I quote, "How can it ever be well?" "I don't know," said Aunt Esty, "but it will be. I have faith." She sighed. "Having faith is hard work sometimes." I bet it is, because it's stupid. So, of course, the safe place that they take her to is Ardua Hall, because no man can enter the place. And Hannah is given some warm milk and a room to nap in. And there was a book on the desk, so she picked it up and she looked through it. And it looked like insects to her, the writing, and she knew they were supposed to mean something, but she couldn't recall what. And then a voice appears behind her. And I quote, "It's really hard at first," said a voice behind me. "It's Becca!" Well, Aunt Immortelle now. She has passed her probationary period and is now learning to be an aunt. Well, perfect for Hannah, who starts grilling her about what she needs to do to pass the trial herself, because she doesn't want to have to go back. She'd rather be here than anywhere else besides death, and this seems like a better prospect. Becca just tells her to do what she's told and to learn to read. And I quote, "Reading's way harder than cleaning toilets." Becca also says maybe Aunt Lydia will allow them to bunk together. And I quote, "We can ask Aunt Lydia if you can live here with me. But don't ever say anything bad about her, even if you think you're in a safe place, such as here. She has ways of knowing about it. She's truly the scariest one of all the aunts." "Scarier than Aunt Vidala?" I whispered back. "Aunt Vidala wants you to make mistakes," said Becca. "But Aunt Lydia, you get the feeling she wants you to be better than you are. She looks at you as if she really sees you." "I think I'd like that," I said. "No," said Becca. "That's why she's so scary." I love that they're terrified of her, and she has this reputation of, she does hear and see everything. That's her power. That's how she keeps her power. She knows everything that's going on. But it's just funny that these poor girls are just like, don't ever say anything bad about her. So, of course, Paula decides to show up at Ardua Hall to try to talk her into coming back. Because, women are allowed in those hallowed halls. Hallowed halls. She tells Hannah how she's dishonored her family by coming here. And do you know how hard it was to get her set up with Commander Judd? And Hannah's just like, "Dude, I've received a higher calling. I don't know what to tell you." Which Paula tells her is a lie. And I quote, "You are not the kind of girl God would ever single out." "How dare you question the divine will?" I said. I was almost shouting. "Your sins will find you out." I love it. She's just like, "No, I'm here now and I'm not leaving here, so deal with that." Becca told her to act a little crazy, but Paula was still adamant about Hannah coming home and marrying Commander Judd, saying Commander Judd would never sign off on you being here, and if he doesn't, you can't stay here. But luckily for Hannah, Lydia shows up in that moment and says, and I quote, "May I have a word with you?" to Aunt Paula, to her stepmother Paula. So Paula and Aunt Lydia go sit at a different table that's just out of earshot of Hannah. Not that Hannah didn't try to strain to hear the conversation anyway. She couldn't, though. When Paula stood up, however, she looked sick. She didn't say a word to Hannah and just left. Later that day, they had a signed permission slip from Commander Kyle. So next up is Hannah's interviews with each of the aunts. And luckily for her, Becca has already been through this and gives her advice on how to deal with the aunts. And I quote, Aunt Elizabeth went in for dedication to the greater good. Aunt Helena would want to get it over quickly, but Aunt Vidala liked groveling and self-humiliation, so I prepared. Hannah tells us that the first 2 interviews were easy, but Aunt Vidala's, of course, was not. Aunt Vidala was a former teacher of Hannah's, and she always felt like she didn't like her anyway to begin with. But Hannah won her over with her hard work speech and praised Aunt Vidala as well, of course. And last but not least was her interview with the Queen Bee herself. No, not Beyonce. Auntie Lydia. So Lydia congratulates Hannah on making it this far, but that there's still some obstacles for her to overcome. Also, is she sure she doesn't want to marry Commander Judd? She lets Hannah know he will be marrying Shunammite instead. And I quote, "You have been accepted. I hope you are grateful for the opportunity and for the help I have given you." "I am, Aunt Lydia," I managed to get out. "I am truly grateful." "I am glad to hear it," she said. "Perhaps one day you'll be able to help me as you yourself have been helped. Good should be repaid with good." And that's the end of this section, which was Ardua Hall. The next one is a super short episode. Maybe I'll just record that one too. Fox and Cat, which is Aunt Lydia. So thanks for watching this episode of The Testaments with me, the Inconsistent Reader. And as always, make good choices.